Today, we have a story that sounds like it belongs in a Hollywood movie, but it was told as a deathbed confession by a man who had no reason to lie. It's a story about a routine mission in the jungles of Vietnam that should have ended in a massacre, if not for a man who shouldn't have been there. But before we dive in, if you're the kind of person who craves the strange, dark, and mysterious, then you've definitely found your home. This is All We Do, and we make sure to bring you a new set of stories once a week. Also, please subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story. In the mid-1960s, a young American soldier, let's call him Sergeant Miller, was deep in the central highlands of Vietnam. This wasn't a search and destroy mission. Miller and one other American were leading 5 CIDG strikers, local South Vietnamese villagers who had been trained into elite jungle fighters. Their task was quiet and dangerous. They were to emplace seismic ground sensors along a hidden trail network. These sensors were the ears of the US military. They picked up vibrations to track enemy troop movements through the thick canopy. By the second day, the heat was a physical weight. The jungle was a green hell of thorns, leeches, and a silence that felt heavy. Around midday, Miller decided to split the team. He took 2 of the strikers and moved toward a strategic trail intersection to keep watch, while the rest of the team stayed back to finish the sensor work. For 4 hours, Miller lay in the dirt. The jungle was eerily still, just the occasional screech of a monkey and the constant, deafening buzz of cicadas. He was just about to signal his men to pack it up and head back when he decided to check the trail ahead one last time. Miller gripped his rifle and prepared to step out of the brush, but just as his boot touched the edge of the path, he froze. Directly across from him, sitting in the tall grass just shy of the intersection, was a man, but he wasn't wearing NVA green or US olive drab. Miller was staring at a light-skinned black man in a full, pristine Union cavalry uniform from the American Civil War. The heavy blue wool, the brass buttons, the iconic felt hat, it was all there, looking as if he'd just stepped off a recruitment poster from 1863. Miller's mind went into overdrive. He thought he was losing it. Maybe it was the heat, maybe the malaria. But as he stared, the figure turned its head and looked Miller right in the eyes. The man didn't look like a ghost. He looked solid. He looked alert. And then the soldier did something that chilled Miller to the bone. He smiled. He slowly raised a finger to his lips, signaling Miller to be absolutely silent. Then, with a calm but firm motion, he gestured for Miller to get back, to stay off the trail and stay hidden. Miller didn't hesitate. He signaled his strikers to stay down, and he slipped back into the shadows. As he did, he watched the Union soldier do the same, seemingly melting into the foliage on the other side of the path. Less than 10 seconds later, the ground began to vibrate. From around the bend, the lead element of a massive North Vietnamese army platoon marched right through that intersection. Miller watched paralyzed as 70 to 80 NVA soldiers armed to the teeth with automatic rifles, machine guns, and RPGs walked past his position just 30 feet away. If Miller had stepped out onto that trail 5 seconds earlier, he and his men would have been executed on the spot. Once the enemy disappeared into the bush, Miller and his team beat feet. They didn't talk, they didn't stop. They rejoined the main patrol and finished the mission. Miller reported the enemy troop movement when they got back to base, but he told no one about the man in the blue coat. He knew they'd think he'd finally cracked under the pressure of the war. Miller kept that secret for over 50 years. He only told 2 people in his entire life. The first was his grandmother as she lay on her deathbed in the 1970s. When he finished the story, his grandmother didn't look confused. She didn't call him crazy. She just closed her eyes and smiled. She said, "You saw old Red Tom." Miller would later find out that Red Tom was his great-great-grandfather. He was a half-black, half-Creek freeman who served as a legendary scout for the Union Army during the Civil War and later with the U.S. Cavalry. He was famous for his specific gear: 2 pistols, a Spencer rifle, and a curved Creek war club. The exact weapons Miller had seen him clutching in the middle of a jungle in 1965. It seems that even 100 years after his own war had ended, Old Red Tom was still out there, doing what he did best: scouting the trail and protecting his own. That is a story that proves sometimes the things watching us in the woods aren't always there to hurt us. The second mysterious story comes from the early 1990s, where a young woman was living alone in a small remote cabin in the Pacific Northwest. She thought she was enjoying the ultimate peaceful getaway, total isolation. But what she didn't know was that for 3 days, she wasn't alone at all. A freelance writer named Sarah rented a primitive cabin deep in the woods of Washington State. This place was truly off the grid: no phone, no TV. The nearest neighbor was a 5-mile hike through dense forest. At night, she would sit by a large floor-to-ceiling glass window that looked out into the blackness of the woods. She never bothered to close the curtains. She felt completely safe. On the 3rd night, a thick fog rolled in. Sarah felt a prickly sensation on the back of her neck. She looked at the glass, but all she could see was her own reflection, or so she thought. The next morning, Sarah was packing her bags when the sun hit the large window at a very specific angle. Sarah stopped mid-step. Her heart plummeted. There, on the outside of the glass, were hundreds of oily smudge marks: handprints, forehead prints, nose smudges. It became chillingly clear. While she had been sitting in her chair reading, a man had been standing inches away on the other side of that glass. Because she had the light on inside, the window acted like a one-way mirror. She could only see herself, but he could see everything. Sarah sprinted to her car and drove until she reached a payphone. When the police arrived, they found a nest in the tall grass where someone had been sitting for days. But the most disturbing part? They found muddy footprints that led to the back door. The handle was covered in the same oily residue as the window. The intruder hadn't just been watching her, he had spent the night trying to get in. The man was never found. To this day, Sarah doesn't go near windows at night without closing the curtains first, because she knows that just because you can't see out doesn't mean someone can see in. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed these stories, we have more just like them on this channel, so feel free to go back and binge watch our content. We upload brand new stories every single week, so we will see you back here in a few days. Until then, watch your back.